And we're live. Here we go. Hello, everybody. Oleg here. Today we're going to talk about the ultimate Google Doc. Busy day today. Google I/O, they announced a bunch of new stuff. VR, the new apps, Allo for it's kind of a fancier way, basically like Hangouts and steroids for text communication. And then they announced the what do they call it? Duo for it looks like it's one-on-one voice communication, mobile, voice and video, I should say. But it's too early to tell in terms of if it's going to be. So far, everybody's saying it's not a replacement for Hangouts. So I'm still doing this in a Hangout, as you can see. But I personally, at this point, am not so sure that how they're mixing all these things together with Hangouts and Messenger and now this new Allo and Duo, and pretty soon you're going to have a separate phone just to keep track of all the Google apps to be able to load all of them. But anyway, looks pretty cool. But let's step back. Today we're going to talk about the Google Docs specifically, and I'm going to show you something I put together that I think would be useful for not only for business and personal use, but also for educational purposes for teachers. So without further ado here, let me start the process here by jumping into the screen here. And I'm going to show you the first thing I'd like you to do is go to URL that's on the screen right there. And this particular URL, I also put a link in a comment for this event. So you can click directly, go to there, and you just download this. When you click on it, let me just walk you through the process. So if you go to the URL, hopefully you got the name or clicked on it, it'll take you to this page, which is essentially a Google Doc template. And I just put this sample deal for you so you can start from there, and then you can go from there. So essentially what you do is you click on the link, gets to this point, and you click on this use this template button. So once you click on use this template, it'll create a copy of this document on your Google Drive, and that copy will be called copy of Ultimate Google Doc Template. So you can just rename it by clicking here on the name and name it something. You don't need to call it Ultimate Google Doc. This was just my marketing efforts. You can just call it I don't know, Google Doc Template or whatever you want to call it. It doesn't really matter what the name is. So you just rename it on your end. Okay, new feature, I guess. And that's it. And of course, you can change it and resave it without having this by PCS, I mean, my company name. Any kind of content could go in there. So it looks like generic regular document, right? You create it from a template, and it looks like a regular document and doesn't have any special options, features, doesn't really have anything special. The only thing, if you examine it carefully, the only thing that's different about it is, in addition to all the regular menus up here, you also see another menu called My Tools. I'll make it a little bit bigger here. Forgetting that Zara is in the audience. So you see this menu called My Tools. And My Tools allows you to do a lot of, not a lot, but some cool things that hopefully will show you and encourage you to do more of the same on your end. I'll just show you how to set up these, and you can see how simple it is, relatively speaking, to do this. It does require a little bit of knowledge of HTML, and it does require a little bit of knowledge of Google Apps Script, but it's nothing really complex, so bear with me here. So one of the things that I can do here in my document, which normally you don't have in Google Docs, is I can just pull down this menu and say, why don't you stick my logo up at the top? And notice the first time I run this is going to come up with this authorization required. It'll do the same thing on your end. So you click continue, and then it's going to come up with usual Google authorization deal. You click allow. That's okay. Let it do its thing. It's only going to do this one time. Okay, and then this, see, it actually dropped my PCS logo right on top of the page. Okay, so if I get rid of it, and we'll do it, do a little repeat here so you can see in slow motion. Again, going back here, insert, it's running script, it says, and there's my logo. Okay, I can add some more text here, more text, and some more text, and more here, whatever. And say, let's say that I wanted to drop another graphic here. So again, on my tools, I can say, how about insert my Takeout Online logo? And it will stick it down below. Notice it does take a couple of seconds because AppScript is a slow beast, unfortunately. So it takes a few seconds to do it, but it will stick it in there. And as you can see it right there, there's my Takeout Online logo. So the situation here, as you can see, you can create using fairly small amount of code, AppScript code, a document that will have all your basic main elements, graphical elements that you insert in your Google Docs, on an ongoing basis. And then you have access to them literally from a menu. Anytime you want to drop it in, you just select the option, call it decent name, and then it'll put it in your document. And of course, since you're using it as a template, this would be the starting point for a new document. And then you always will use this particular document as a starting point, so you'll always have the code, and you can keep growing the number of these commands under this My Tools to be as long as you want. And then every time you start a new document, you have access to all of these tools, which is pretty handy. Before we get into the how to do this, let me show you another thing it can do. Let's say that you have, when you're doing your work and you're creating a document, let's say that you want to, for example, have access to some of the websites that you frequently visit for the purposes of research or purposes of getting some information, things like that. So, under my tools here, I have my URLs. So I have a command called show my URLs. If I click on it, notice what's going to happen. It's going to leave the document in place, but it's going to open up a panel on the right side called My Links. And now this panel has all these different links for different purposes. So I broke them down to categories. I have my PCS, my main page, my Takeout Online, Spec Zone, all these different things that I access. And of course, it could be a scrollable list. It doesn't have to be just on one page. So if I wanted to go to Spec Zone Collection, I simply click on the link, and it will take me to Spec Zone Collection. If I wanted to go to PCS page, I click on that, and there's the PCS page. And as you can imagine, I'm not going to go through every single link, but you get an idea. In other words, you can customize it to be going exactly where you want to go with a simple click as you're working on your document, which is very handy. PCS, there's my, let's say, PCS channel on YouTube. Click on that, and there's my PCS channel on YouTube. Okay? So very handy, very quick, as you can see, this part. And so very useful. Now, in addition, what I was saying about the teachers and education, this is the deal where you could have a document for a group of students, for example, and if you wanted to have some relevant links to either videos or websites or just individual pages, whatever you decide to do, you can actually have, in some information too, by the way, you can have all that instructions and all these links be here on the right side as the students are working on a document. So you take a document, you share it with your students, and then when they get it, they will automatically have this menu because you pre-made it, and this menu option, I should say, and then they will have this bar, this right side bar, that will have all the information relevant to that particular project, whatever you want them to work on. So I think from an educational standpoint, it could be a very, very useful utility, because lots of kids right now in schools do use Google Docs, and teachers give them assignments, and this is just a kind of a slightly unique but a very useful way to pass some additional helpful information that the kids could use to make it easier for them to work on the doc itself. And of course, it's no different. It doesn't have to be students. It could be your employees in your business where you have some kind of project that people work on a weekly basis. Let's say they're putting together a status of certain things that transpired in the prior week. So they fill out these weekly reports. Well, you can have information on this side panel, instructions as to how to properly fill out these weekly reports or monthly reports or quarterly reports, whatever they might be. So it definitely has many different uses to have additional information on the side. It doesn't have to be links. It could be just information, but it's a very useful thing to have. So that's and to show you what else you can do, I had a separate hangout earlier when I wrote the thing originally. I have this voice commands thing. As you know, Google allows you to do voice commands right within Google Docs. You just select tools and you go to voice typing, and that allows you to simply type all of your commands, including punctuations and alignment and formatting, all kinds of different things you can do with your voice in addition to typing. And the problem with these commands, even though it's phenomenal what they can do and how well they work, there's a bunch of them. And so Google does have a page you can go to. Uh, in the bottom here, I have a link to it. And it has all these things, and all these things open up, and they tell you about formatting commands. You can see there's quite a bit of stuff, and this is just one option here. So it's inconvenient. You jump away from the document. It's just too much stuff, too much back and forth. But my approach here was to try to make it simple. I have a very little scrolling here, as you can see. Most of it fits. In fact, if I actually went to regular size screen, size font, I should say, it should actually fit. Yeah, see, it pretty much fits completely, except for the link at the bottom to the Google page, which you don't really need. It fits completely the way it is right now. And you can still see your document and everything is cool. But the commands themselves are here, and I broke them down to sections. So this is an example of this panel with just text. It does have this one link, but it's mostly text. As you can see, I got it formatted. It got bold in places. I have probably italics in there somewhere, potentially. You can definitely use all kinds of formatting. You can even use, in my case, I wanted to get a little fancy, so I used special Google fonts, which you can use if you want to. You don't have to. And, to make it a little bit more attractive looking. Here, it's just, typical voice commands. But the bottom line, it's a very, very useful thing to have, especially when you're working and doing a lot of typing, a lot of voice dictating. It's nice to be able to have this thing next to you so you know exactly what the commands are. And so you don't have to remember them because they're there to help you as you need it. Okay, and then you point in time. And of course, I can flip between these different panels anytime by just selecting the option. So it's not like you select one, you can't select the other one. You can jump in and out anytime you want. Okay, so I just quickly wanted to show you this and to show you these abilities to both easily create a panel on the right side to put some content there, with a couple of examples of what it could be used for. I'm sure you can probably come up with all kinds of additional examples, and also how you can do like dropping graphical elements in place in your document as you're working on it. So now, with that out of the way, let's go and specifically look at how to do this. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a AppScript tutorial here. So if you go to Tools and you go to Script Editor down here, it'll open it up in a separate tab, and that tab will basically show you the code, which is this main code.js. And as you can see, there's a little bit of code, but not tremendously so. It's definitely not too much. Let me make it a little bit bigger here. Okay. In addition to that, notice I also have a couple of additional commands here on the left side. I have one HTML document, another HTML document, all part of the same Google Apps Script. Probably should have called it something on the show voice commands. I just used the original thing. So if you click on these things on the left side, then you'll get them all. By the way, when you get my document, you're going to get all of this code there too. So essentially, here's how it works. Right now, I have this function called onOpen, which is just an AppScript function. And you can just copy it exactly or leave it the way I have it. And notice that it's got these certain commands. It says basically create menu called My Tools. And as you can see here, that's exactly what it did. And then it says add item, and it shows the text name of the item. And then it shows the function name it's going to run. So just two things, the actual name, and then the menu, I should say. The name that shows up in the menu is the first parameter here. And the second one is the function is going to execute when selected. And so all of them are the same in terms of name of the menu, item, and then what to execute. And You just have it exactly like that. So anytime you want to add additional panel, for example, or something similar to like show my URLs, you just simply have to copy this one line, add item, and you stick it wherever you want it to be. If you want it on the bottom, just you can push it to the bottom here. By the way, this indentation is not mandatory. It's just the way I did it, so it's easy to look at. But it does. You don't have to indent stuff. But I recommend it because it's easier to see. And so now I have another one, and of course, then you would change this to be your new menu option, and this would be the name of the actual function that should be down below somewhere to execute. And that's all you do to change the menu. It's as simple as that. Okay. The next thing that you do is you leave everything else here as it is, where it says uninstall, open, just leave it as is. That's the way it's supposed to be. Okay, you don't need to mess with that. So then the only other thing you need to do is to actually write the function. And to show you an example here with like my URLs, for example, you can see that the functions are very small. Literally, this is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Could be even smaller if I didn't indent it like this, but basically, let's just say 5 lines long. I mean, they're very, most of them are very small for these panels, okay? And the command to actually stick the panel in there is here. And essentially what's going on, well, all of this makes the actual command to add the panel is here, but it needs to have this variable to figure out what to put in the panel, and that's what this first part does. So essentially, you just need to copy it exactly like I have it, and the only thing you'll need to change is the name of the HTML file that you want to show in that panel. In other words, what we're doing here is we're saying, I want to open the panel, and then I'm going to give you an HTML file, just like a regular HTML page, and I want you to put the content of that HTML page in that panel. That's what we're doing here, okay? So in this case, for my URLs, it says use the URL with HTML file called panel_urls.html. And down here, if you look over here, you can actually see that's exactly what this is. It's part of this deal, which is this panel.urls.html. And if we scroll down, it's usual HTML, head, body. If you do need to know HTML to put this together. So if you don't know HTML, this will be a little trickier for you. You'll need to get somebody who knows HTML. Potentially, you can just type in text too. If you just put in basic HTML tags and just type in text, it'll still work. It's just not going to look very pretty, but it's doable. So I'm not going to go into HTML tutorial here. I'm just going to say that I'm not doing anything out of the ordinary in terms of HTML. I just have a couple of unordered lists, linked lists, not linked lists. And I have some style sheets for Google Fonts, which is why you see that font. And over here is a command to set it up. Bottom line is, if you follow this, and if you know HTML even a little bit, you can easily make changes to this, and you can see that all the links here, this unordered list here, that's where all of my links are to go to my PCS page. This. All you have to do is just simply change my links and the name that shows for the link to be whatever you want it to be. And if you need to add more of these li lines, you can add as many as you want, and all of them will show up. So as you can see, it says PCS, takeout online, collection, and so on. And here you go, PCS, takeout online, specs and collection. So it's exactly the code you're looking at in HTML that would show that kind of page. And that's precisely what you see there. And then in the actual first part here, in this function here, that's where it says, go ahead and create, use this particular HTML file, and then set title to say, in this case, it just says list of sites are frequent. And then it does this command here to set it up in the iframe, and then it actually shows it on the sidebar. So it is, I realize for people who haven't done it, it's definitely confusing. It's cryptic. You got dots, you got semicolons, you got, quotes, parentheses. I mean, you got a lot of stuff. But really, if you really look at it, the things that you're really changing here, the only things you're changing in these functions are things that are in brown. So you're really changing the name of the HTML file, and you're changing the actual name that shows up for you to select from. and you leave everything exactly as it is. So, you just make a copy of one function, change a couple of these things, and you're done. There's nothing else for you to do. The only thing you need to make sure is you also create an HTML file that'll go with this panel that needs to be part of this whole setup. How do you do that? Very easily. You click on File, New, and then you say HTML file. Okay, so let's just do it right now so you can actually see me doing it. I'm going to create a new HTML file. I'm going to go with Oleg example.html, let's say, right? I'm going to say, okay, it's going to go ahead and create basic information here without anything else. See, it already puts it in there. And the only thing I'm going to say here, I'm going to say, this is an example. And I'm going to put a P tag, which means jump to a new paragraph. And from the ultimate Google Doc template HOA. Okay, I will just have 2 lines in there. Notice I'm not changing fonts, I'm not doing anything. I just put a little bit of code in there, mostly nothing more than just text. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and click on the save here to save it. Okay, and then I'm going to go back to my code.js. Now that we have the HTML file, I want to go ahead and one second, let me find this thing here. I'm going to say, let's say we're going to add the deal. We're going to call it Oleg's example. Oleg example. And show, we'll just call it Oleg example. It doesn't have to say show, by the way. It doesn't have to be upper or lowercase if you don't want to. It just needs to be consistent. So if you're using upper or lowercase, it needs to be same thing in the function. And so if we look at the function, we're going to make a copy of the function here. Okay. Make a copy, highlight it. I'm going to paste it right below. So make another copy. And I'm going to call it show Oleg example. Now, this particular name has to be the same as we put up here. This is the name of the function to run. So show Oleg example. Okay. And over here it says show Oleg example. So they need to tie to each other. That's how it knows. And then here I'm going to open up an HTML file called Oleg example.html, which is what we called it up here, right? And we're going to put the title on it, example from the HOA on Ultimate Google Doc, just so we have a nice title. And that's all we need to do. Just put in the title and put in that, and make sure that this particular function name is the same as we added to the menu here. And this I could call anything. It doesn't have to be called example. I could call it HOA example if I wanted to. In other words, the name you show on the menu is irrelevant. It's the function name that you're tying to this menu is important to make sure it's the same as function name up here. And then, of course, here it'll execute. So let's see if we did it right. Then we're going to go ahead and click on Save to make sure it's saved. And then when it saves, the little red star disappears. And now that it's saved, I'm going to go ahead and jump back to the Google Doc for it. I'm going to reload it to make sure it has the new copy of the code, execute it. And I'm going to go ahead and wait until it shows me my tools. So there's my tools, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And now notice that we now have this new menu item called HOA example. I'm going to click on that. And if everything worked right, then see it says example from HOA for Ultimate. So I made the title a little too long. You might want to make it shorter so it fits. And then the actual lines I put in, this is an example. There is a paragraph break from the Ultimate Google Type HOA. So with that formatting, it doesn't look very pretty, but you can see how little code it requires to actually stick it in there. And so, again, I realize it's a little bit confusing to follow, but if you just follow my instructions as I was showing it to you and follow exactly, you should get exactly the same thing. It's not difficult at all. And then once you get it done one time, then the rest of them are going to be super simple because you're doing essentially the same things. You're just duplicating the code and you're just changing a little bit what actually shows up here. Okay? And so In terms of the document itself, you can work on it. You can do whatever you want to do. You can name it anything you want. Just do as much as little as you want with it. But these little options here that are part of this thing make it so you can do these special additional things with the document, and this opens it up to have additional. I mean, I don't know how to describe it exactly. Basically, it's like almost having a regular word processing document with bunch of extra capabilities that no document normally would have. You don't usually have documents. I mean, you can have templates, and they start out with a page looking a certain way, but having this ability to drop your logo, for example, or some kind of a footer graphic wherever you want to. Um, or any other kind of deal. Maybe you have some icons, maybe you have some clip art, all kinds of things like that. You can actually build slowly, but specifically, methodically into a particular document. And then, of course, you use it. You start with that document as a clean slate, and then from that point on, you have access to all these different capabilities. In addition to everything else Google Doc does, you also have these additional capabilities as well. So whether it'll be something that helps you or your employees work on the document, so there's some information on the right side there, or the voice commands, or ability to drop in some information. There is some other things you can do. It's not like it's the only thing you can do with AppScript, but I specifically wanted to show you these two because it's relatively simple. I mean, I don't want to say that this is child's play because it does require a certain amount of knowledge, and more specifically, not so much knowledge as the follow through in terms of following exactly how these commands should be and where they should be and all of that. So as long as you follow what I was saying, you should have no problems creating your own things. And then if you want to venture into Google Apps Script and see what other capabilities I should say it has, and see if you want to incorporate those into the same template, so you have more and more and more capabilities, then by all means. But in the meantime, I think just with these couple of things, you can do quite a bit of good stuff here with using this example. So I'm not doing Q&A here. Let me jump out of there. And I would just say that if you have any questions, you're welcome to reach me on Google+. If you have any specific, things that you're trying to make work, like you tried to do what I was doing and it didn't work, if you want to show me the code or have me help you, I'll be more than happy to help you, not a problem. So just try it, and you'll see. Once you see it working, you'll see how cool it is. In the meantime, yeah, you use the URL that I showed in the beginning. In fact, I'm going to show it one more time for those who didn't grab it in the beginning. Now let's go back to here, and I'm going to bring it back up again. And I'm going to, let's do it this way so you can really see it easily. Okay. And so you go to this URL, and then you click on, get the, use the document that's there. And then once you actually get it, it'll create a copy for you. Name it something template. So you always start with these. In other words, in the future, when you work on these documents, do not go and select every time from the templates. You just create your own personal template with all this code and any of your code, and then you save it as a Google Doc with the name template. The name template doesn't mean anything to the computer. I mean, to Google, it just will mean something to you. And keep it somewhere where you have easy access to it in your drive. So you always, whenever you start new documents, you always start them from that particular one document by creating a copy of it. So you actually create a copy, and then you rename the copy to be your new doc, and you work on that. So all the Google Apps Script code will automatically venture into this other document, and that's what makes all the magic. I mean, other than that, it's just a regular doc. And as long as you do that, then every time you create, from a new document from one of these templates like that, it'll have your own everything you need to have for your organization, and you can have multiple templates if you want to, which will have different capabilities. So depending on the audience, you might want to have that. Like you might have a template for each department because they have different needs and they have different informational panels that would want to be used in their templates, things like that. Again, for education, I think it's a phenomenal potential to use Google Docs with this kind of capability, where you have all kinds of potentially you could have um, you can have links. You can have, I mean, just about anything you can imagine. You can put in HTML. You can put on these pages. So with that being the case, it's pretty much an open door, open book type situation. So again, if you have any questions, please get a hold of me. I think we're done for right now. And until next time, thank you. Bye bye.